When you cross the threshold of 60, society starts treating you a bit like an old book left on a dusty shelf. People assume that because the cover is a little worn, the story inside has completely stopped moving. And nowhere is that assumption more glaring or more completely wrong than when it comes to the topic of intimacy. There is this pervasive, unspoken myth that once you hit a certain age, that part of your life simply evaporates, that the fire goes out entirely, leaving behind nothing but cold ashes and polite companionship. But I am here to tell you from first-hand experience that life without that youthful, frantic drive after 60 is absolutely not what you think it is. It is not a tragedy, it is not a loss, and it is certainly not the end of passion. In fact, for many of us, it becomes the moment where we finally discover what true closeness actually means. Today, we need to strip away the awkwardness and the societal whispers to talk about the beautiful, surprising reality of intimacy in our golden years. Because the truth is far more liberating than anyone lets on. We are told by movies, magazines, and modern culture that our worth is tied directly to our physical performance and our youthful desires. When those things begin to change, it can feel like a quiet crisis, a slow fading of who we used to be. But what if I told you that this transition is actually a doorway to the most peaceful, authentic, and deeply satisfying chapters of your entire life? For the first half of our lives, intimacy is so often tied to performance, validation, and a kind of biological urgency that we rarely stop to analyze. It is loud, it is demanding, and it is heavily influenced by what we think we are supposed to be doing. But as the decades roll by, the nature of that energy undergoes a profound, quiet transformation. It is not that the desire for connection disappears. Rather, the channel through which it flows changes entirely. I remember vividly when I first noticed this shift in my own life. I was a few years past my 60th birthday, and my body began to signal that things were shifting. The old instincts felt distant, and the physical responses I had taken for granted my entire life suddenly required an effort that felt unnatural. Initially, I panicked. A heavy wave of shame washed over me, and I felt as though a core piece of my manhood was slipping through my fingers. Out of sheer embarrassment, I started pulling away from my partner. I would stay up late reading just to avoid going to bed at the same time, or I would invent tasks around the house to create distance. I thought the silence growing between us was the definitive end of our romance. Then one rainy evening, we were sitting together on the couch. The television was off and the house was completely quiet. I was trapped in my own head, stewing in my anxiety, when she simply reached over and took my hand. She didn't say a word, but she held it with a kind of fierce, protective tenderness that completely shattered my defenses. In that quiet moment, looking at our intertwined fingers, a massive weight lifted off my chest. I realized that all the frantic physical pressure I had been agonizing over was just the restless surface of the ocean. Beneath it lay something much calmer, much deeper, and infinitely more powerful than anything we had experienced in our youth. When you finally let go of the youthful obsession with physical performance, you open the door to a level of emotional honesty that younger couples rarely have the time or the patience to cultivate. The pressure is completely gone. There is no more anxiety about expectations, no more performance apprehension, and no more hiding your vulnerabilities behind a mask of confidence. You look at each other exactly as you are, with all the lines, the gray hair, and the physical changes that time has brought. And you realize that you are deeply known and deeply accepted. This shifts the entire dynamic of a relationship from something centered on physical gratification to something built on profound, unshakable safety. You find that a long, uninterrupted conversation over morning coffee, where you share your deepest fears about aging or your sweetest memories of the past, can leave you feeling more connected and more alive than any fleeting physical encounter ever did. You begin to experience a beautiful freedom, where you no longer have to prove anything to anyone, not even to the person you love most. This newfound freedom allows you to redefine affection on your own terms, completely free from the templates handed down by popular culture. Affection after 60 becomes an art form of small, deliberate gestures that carry an immense amount of weight. It is found in the way you anticipate each other's needs without being asked, the shared humor that only the two of you understand, and the quiet comfort of simply occupying the same space. A gentle touch on the shoulder as you walk past each other in the hallway, a lingering embrace in the kitchen while waiting for the kettle to boil, or holding hands while walking through the park ceases to be a prelude to something else. Instead, these actions become complete, beautiful expressions of love in their own right. These moments are not lesser forms of intimacy. They are the distilled essence of it. They are sustainable. They are deeply comforting. And they feed the soul in a way that protects you from the deep loneliness that so often creeps into later life. They form a protective barrier around your relationship, ensuring that even as the world outside changes rapidly, the bond between you remains perfectly steady. Living beautifully in this stage of life also requires us to dismantle the immense psychological burden of comparison. So much of the unhappiness seniors face comes from comparing their present realities to their past capabilities, or to the hypersexualized images constantly pushed by modern media. We are told that to age successfully, we must somehow trick our bodies into acting like they are still 30. We buy into the promises of pills, supplements, and quick fixes, desperate to hold on to a phase of life that has naturally run its course. But that is a fool's errand that only leads to frustration, anxiety, and a profound sense of inadequacy. True wisdom lies in accepting the natural rhythm of your season. Your body is not failing you. It is simply evolving into a different state of being. When you stop fighting the natural deceleration of your physical drives, you discover a profound sense of peace that you never knew existed. You find that your energy is no longer consumed by restless, demanding desires, leaving your mind clear, focused, and available for deep creativity, appreciation of nature, and the cultivation of lasting peace. It is a transition from a turbulent, unpredictable sea to a calm, clear mountain lake, and the view from this lake is truly spectacular. Furthermore, this shift forces us to confront and heal our relationship with ourselves. For many years, our self-worth is tied up in our physical attractiveness, our strength, and our ability to desire and be desired by others. When that shifts, it can trigger a quiet crisis of identity, leaving us wondering who we are if we are no longer those vibrant physical beings. But the true beauty of life after 60 is that you are finally forced to find your value from within, rather than through the gaze or validation of another person. You learn to appreciate your body not for how it performs under pressure, but for its resilience, its incredible history, and its capacity to still feel warmth, comfort, and joy. You become gentler with your flaws, more forgiving of your limitations, and more appreciative of your unique journey. This deep self-acceptance radiates outward, making you a more grounded, compassionate partner and a truer friend to those around you. You realize that the capacity to love, to feel deeply, and to project warmth into the world has absolutely nothing to do with biological youth, and everything to do with the openness of your spirit. Ultimately, life without the constant hum of youthful physical intimacy is not a barren, lonely landscape. It is a rich, mature forest where the roots run incredibly deep into the earth. It allows for a type of companionship that is rare and precious, where two people can stand together against the passage of time, fully exposed, fully aware of their limitations, and completely unafraid of what the future holds. It is a time where love becomes unconditional in the truest sense of the word, entirely stripped of transactions, ego, and demands. It is a quiet understanding that says, I am here with you, and you are here with me, and that is more than enough. So if you are approaching this chapter of your life, or if you are already walking through it and feeling a sense of quiet loss or confusion, I want you to change your perspective completely. Stop looking back at what has faded with regret, and start looking at the immense depth, clarity, and peace that have risen to take its place. The fire has not gone out. It has simply become a steady, warming hearth that can sustain you comfortably, beautifully, and joyfully for all the wonderful years ahead. Enjoy the stillness, embrace the depth, and know that the best parts of connection are the ones that time can never take away from you.